Now we can start.
Are you sure?
Sure.
So, am I audible to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So, good morning, one and all. So, we're great to have you all join us for this workshop today. As you all know, you must have come across or um, for the reason why we are holding this workshop is that we want learners to gain, freshers to gain more experience via attending our workshops. So for this, we have our very prestigious guest speaker, Mr. Abhinandan Mukherjee. So, Sir is there today. So, meet Mr. Abhinandan Mukherjee, who is a dynamic HR transformation leader with over 19 years of experience across global organizations like Cognizant Technology Solutions, and the World Bank Group. He has worked extensively in human resource operations, technology and transformation, and global shared services, helping businesses modernize their people practices and drive data led driven decision making. So, Mr. Abhinandan Mukherjee is also the founder of Talent Synergy, and Sir has been instrumental in building ecosystems that support CHROs and CXOs in areas like capability mapping, upskilling and culture assessment, and leadership development. He is also a certified OKR practitioner and an AI, that is artificial intelligence and machine learning strategist, with a keen eye for analytics, dashboards, and digital HR solutions. Through his community-based learning approach, he empowers young professionals and students to become industry-ready by blending practical tools, gamified learning, and real-world exposure. So today he is here to share with you our new workshop, equipping you with the same tools and frameworks which are used by top HR professionals across industries. So we welcome all of you today for our workshop and the foundations of HR business partnering. So in this workshop, you will understand some key points. I'll just touch across those and then we'll let our guest speaker talk. So you'll be understanding the HRBP role and business acumen, where you will grasp how HRBPs align HR initiatives with business objectives and speak the language of business. The second thing is stakeholder management and relationship building, where you will develop the confidence in engaging diverse stakeholders and fostering collaborative relationships. The third thing is data-driven HR and workforce analytics, where you will gain practical experience by using analytics for some evidence-based HR decisions. Talent management and organizational development, where you will learn the talent lifecycle and how HRBPs drive organizational capability. And change management and employee experience, where you'll gain some skills in navigating change and fostering a positive workplace culture. So, sir will talk about all these points. With that, I hand over the stage to you, Abhinandan sir. Please continue.
Hey, thanks, Atakshi, and thanks, Gargi. Thanks, whoever is joined. I wanted to start off by checking with everyone, and this includes, let's say, Gargi, Satakshi, Prarthana, for you all also, right? That for all of us, what does HR business partner mean to you? So what do you immediately think of when you hear the term HR business partner? And you know, that stands for anyone. So the question is not limited to only the participants. And I would like to keep this more conversational, right? And I hope we are recording the session so that we can send it to participants who have not been able to join.
Gargi, we are recording the session, right?
Yes.
Yes, the recording is on. And also, I would request all our members today to please switch on your cameras so that we can take some pictures for the event also, and we get to know you guys at least face to face, just for like 5 minutes or so.
Yeah. So while we do that, I think so. Let's make this more interactive because rather than me only sharing what an HR business partner does or what it's all about, I think it's important for us to have an understanding and good takeaways from the session, right? So, what does HR business partner mean to you all, right? When you hear the term, anyone wants to share?
Yeah, we have one person who has written Pradeep. HRBP is not limited only to engagement, but also to strategic planning, coordinating with stakeholders, achieving OGSM goals, and increasing the turnover.
Yeah. So, I'm actually trying to. Okay. Let me see if I okay. Yeah. So absolutely. And I think that's the best part, right? And one of the most encouraging things, Pradeep, I don't know your background, right? So maybe after this question we could also take a quick check of the background, right? So we also understand the demographics of the participants today. But one of the things is very, very encouraging is that we hear strategic planning, coordinating with stakeholders,
Yeah, some one other person,
goals.
Chandan, has mentioned that person is responsible for manpower from all sources, the HRBP.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely,
Shomi has written that this person helping to align people's strategy with business goals.
absolutely. Yes. So basically, what we are trying to do here is, and what I hear, the first response is very, very encouraging. All three are, but I don't just hear HR terms, right? And that's the strategic HR business partners role. That it's largely aligning organization goals to people goals, people strategy with business strategy, what Shomi is mentioning. And that is exactly what I think strategic business partners are doing these days. So HR has grown beyond that operational, foundational, repetitive tasks or admin tasks. So definitely agree with all of these. So could we also have a quick round of, let's say, how many years of experience do you have? If you can type in the chat box, right? Number of years of experience and your highest education, right? So if we can start putting it, then I know what kind of participants we have. So like I'll say I'm a postgraduate in HR. So I've done an MBA HRM and I have about 20 years of experience, right? So let's also start typing what kind of participants we have on the session today. We'll just give it a few minutes, I think, for people to type in.
That's great. We start with Abhinandan sir himself, who's mentioned that he's an MBA in HRM with 20 years of experience. Okay, Shomi has mentioned that she's an MBA with HRM, 1.5 plus years of experience. Chandan has mentioned, Chandan Sharma, that he is an ME in Public Administration, LLB, and an ex-Indian Navy with 22 years of experience.
Wow, we should have had Chandan Sharma as one of our guest speakers. Believe me. Okay, so while others type in, I think today's conversation was we were expecting a lot of early professionals to join, but it's great to see quite a few senior people in the
There is Pradeep Kalaira, sir.
Pradeep.
Hello, Abhinandan and team. Thanks for this session. I'm associated with AGS Health with 8+ years of experience and 10+ overall years of experience, which includes end-to-end recruitment. Started my career after completing BE Computer Science.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome, Pradeep.
No, thanks everyone. Sudipto says MSW, 1 year
Uh,
experience. Okay, great. Yeah. So while others type in, I think given that we also want to stay committed to the time, right? And while we said it's a 10 to 12, I think around we'll try and close by the session by 11:15. Keep the floor open for any questions, comments, and in the meantime, please feel free to use the chat box, and we'll make it interactive. I have a few slides and definitely wanted to share what all we are doing, right, and how the entire strategic HR piece is changing, right, over a period of time. Uh, so thanks, Satakshi, for the introduction. And like Satakshi mentioned, I have about 20 years of experience working for Cognizant Technologies, World Bank. Uh, Mostly worked in HR operations, got my hands dirty in policy process administration across the HR functional areas. And what I realized, and I want to start with this short story, that what we realized is that HR business partner role, right, is actually knowing almost everything that the HR professional needs to deliver in an organization, right? They need to do from hire to retire. So it's not it's definitely the HR generalist approach, but these days the roles have become a lot more strategic, right? You cannot just set up meetings with and introduce new hires to hiring managers, right? Today, HR business partners are getting involved in what Shomi mentioned in terms of the, converting the workforce strategy, understanding the business strategy, workforce strategy. And what I want to share today is what am I seeing changing in organizations? I've been in the industry for this long, but what's very interesting is that even smaller and medium-sized organizations have started to understand the value of an HR business partner. And with a consolidated effort of the HR community, what we are trying to do here is ensure that freshers and early professionals get a lot of these knowledge nuggets that they can go and apply directly. So the concept, was very interesting to me. Where I Okay, so Chandan Sharma, you're right. I think definitely converging the manpower for operational needs, and going back, the entire fresher rank initiative that I understand is to ensure that we are able to create those knowledge nuggets for freshers and early professionals, capture them, and make early professionals more production ready, right? And to get a higher productivity on day one or in the early in their career. So today, what's also happening is I was speaking to someone, I think yesterday. This gentleman is a close friend from Bangladesh. He's based out of Bangladesh and Singapore. So we were talking about what can we do, right, in the HR community. He's an HR professional, and what we were sharing is that the foundation level roles, right, in HR are actually depleting, which means that the base work, the operational work, is either being taken away by shared services teams or they are being automated. Repetitive tasks are becoming, very easy to do with the AI and some of those frameworks. While definitely there's a lot more to be done in terms of AI and those becoming very, very, very truly supporting or enabling the organization. But what is important is for us to understand how an HR business partner has to navigate across multiple functions. And if I remember correctly, I think one of the key things that was required by the HR business partner was to know who does what in an organization. Now, that itself is such a big task, right, for the HR business partner to know. Because one, there are policies, processes, each process is handled by different teams, and they do everything from hire to retire. So we had planned, and I think Gargi and Satakshi are would plan a follow through session. We actually planned to get a few HR business partners together, right? But this session was more to introduce the foundational elements and then keep the concept clear, saying, okay, what does an HR partner, a business partner actually do? And at the end of the day, then HR business partners come and share, right, what works for them, what is working today, what's not working today in organizations. So while we heard what we heard, I just wanted to start off with one or two slides of key terms that an HR business partner does, right, or comes across almost every day, right? So I just want to bring up uh, that slide. Just give me 1 second. Okay, I think, yeah. So Gargi, Satakshi, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So I'll just put it in the slideshow mode. Yeah. So I think one of the things that I wanted to start with is, and this is what we clearly heard, right, from the experienced people who are in the session today, that business partnering is a lot about business strategy, talking to business, adding value where it makes more sense. And I remember that back in 2009, 10, right, almost 15 years back, large organizations, were setting up their shared services framework. And at that point in time, I remember working for Cognizant, and we started taking work from HR business partners, which was transactional, which was important, but may not be as value adding as much as talking to employees, understanding their employee engagement, people management. Those were key terms, right? And till then, I remember that we used to actually issue a manual offer letter. We were actually signing experience certificates, employment certificates, a lot of those things. And over a period of time, right, those kind of work were taken away from HR business partners into a shared services kind of a setup. And today, a lot of that, is driven through the HRMS, HRIS, and then through the systems. So if we look at this, and this is whatever I have here is largely public information. We will share this deck with everyone, but feel free to, chat and put it in the chat. The only thing is, I'm not able to see the chat. So if there's some question that comes up, you have to just
Yeah,
alert
Abhi, I'll let
me,
you know.
Sakshi.
There's some
Yeah.
question. Yes.
Yeah. So this is very interesting. When I just searched, right, multiple of the AI tools, which typically is the go-to place for all of us these days, saying, give me 100 common terms relevant to a, HR business partner, talent manager. These are the top 40 that come up. And what is very interesting is there are some of the HR terms which are in the top 40, but most of these, if you see, or many of these, if you see, are business terminologies. And I'm so glad that, that's happening because still in some of the clients that I work with, I see that HR business partners continue to do some of the operational work, which can easily be either transitioned to a, an operational team, could be a shared services kind of a structure, or automate or be automated. And HR is no more just about doing those operational work, right? But I think, some of these are again interesting. I see KPI, OKR. If you look at 13, 14, if we look at 33, that is culture fit. Culture is again no more just a HR area. It's definitely something that goes beyond HR. Mergers and acquisitions again is just one of the teams in HR, but organizations work together, multiple teams, primarily finance and corporate branding, those teams. And if you look at 40, which is corporate social responsibility, again, is not just HR. Sometimes the initiatives are administered by HR, right? Leadership pipeline, leadership development, a lot of these come in the top 40, right? But interesting part is too that a lot of these terms are business terms, and that's very encouraging, right? I'll just give it, few seconds and ask this question saying, okay, if anyone wants to share anything on these terms, right? How you feel these are relevant for an HR business partner, right? In their day-to-day operations. We can hear from the audience if they have any comments, thoughts on these 40 top terms. You can use the chat box, or I don't know if you all can unmute and speak.
Yes, everyone, please feel free to unmute yourself, or you can use the chat box.
Yeah. It could be an experience. It could be anyone who's shared something with you. It could be your own application that you have done, right? Because we got few of people sharing, but there are more audience, and I don't know if anyone is an HR business partner who's already doing some of these, or many of these, or all of these on in their role.
So I have a question here.
Hi team. Hi Abhinandan. Thanks for the session. So I would like to share a few things about our organization. So
Please.
our organization started with the healthcare domain, which primarily focus US healthcare. And when it comes to our designations, initially what we called as employee engagement. So we had a management changes, and right now no more employee engagement. The designation is changed to human resource business partnering. Like you shared in the slide, sir, our primary focus is strategic planning. So how effective we are coordinating with stakeholders to make the business alignment with our employees as well as achieving the OGSM goals. So that includes CSR as well, like culture fit as well. So both this gender wise as well. When I say gender, so it's inclusive. So whenever there is any business requirements, we need to mention, we need to, as a HR business partner, we need to ensure that all this gender are being equally provided with the opportunities for all designations, not only to particular. So these are the things we have started, and we are fully focused on this one, sir.
No, wonderful, wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing. And I think I think for some reason I'm just trying to look for the diversity term. So you mentioned about gender, but yeah, I think if you look at 68, inclusion and belonging, and I think diversity should be somewhere, right? I wasn't able to put all the 100, but yeah, I think it's very important for us to understand that HR business partners, has to do a lot of stuff which is business oriented, right? And it goes beyond HR as a function. Thanks so much for sharing. And anyone else? I think okay. So while I keep this slide
Here,
on,
Mr.
which
Chandan
is
Sharma has mentioned that DEI is also a changing concept, that is diversity, equality, and inclusion.
correct. So it's I think DEIB together, where some places we can see the diversity and equity, inclusivity, inclusion and belongingness. So absolutely. And I think there is diversity hiring in number 50. So some of those. So absolutely, right. And what I wanted to also share is one of the use cases, right? What we did, how to create a successful business partnering mindset, right? And this was in one of the organizations I worked for, the two large ones throughout my career. uh, we what we did is we actually said, okay, what's really the success measure of a business partner, right? For them, it is to understand the business, to do what is required for the employees, for the people strategy. And it's not just strategy, right? All the HR leaders I worked under always agreed that strategy is all about execution. And so there has to be the execution team also that comes in when we talk about the strategy. So they need to have the execution mindset as well, or at least bring people who will execute. So if we look at that angle, what there was a pilot done for one group of fresh hires or new hires in HR. They were put through the shared services organization, right? So the initial 6 months in that particular, those 2 years, largely the HR hires were all given a training of 6 months in the shared services organization, which has people policies, people processes, key information, employee query resolution, employee grievance management across the functions, right? Across policies, which included payroll, which included employee benefits, and all of those, right? And thereafter, the group of HR professionals, after 6 months, they were deputed to whichever business partnering, whichever business vertical they were aligned to. And for those 2 years, there was a uh, very good employee satisfaction score that came in for the HR function from those business units, right? And what they said is HR business partners, even the new people who had joined, new employees or the new business partnering team who had joined, not necessarily they were able to solve all the questions or the grievances, queries that came from the people team, from the employees, but at least they were able to appreciate and immediately relate. Because what was happening in the earlier scenario is the HR business partners were put on the job, right, without even knowing all the HR policies, and going through them, handling them, right? Because for them, they had to basically take the first brunt of the employees, right? So that was one of the things that came to my mind immediately. I got reminded of that practice, right? So coming back, I think we had a
Um,
few more slides, but if anyone else wants to share something, yeah, go ahead.
There is just this one thing which I wanted to ask here, Ravi, because since we have some freshers also on board,
Right.
actually the thing is that a lot of freshers, almost all the freshers, when they go through this process of getting a job, first they have to see their job description, and then they get an offer letter which has their CTC. So, can you give some points as to what like freshers should see in their job description and how they should check their skills, and in the CTC what how they should try and understand, because some of the points even the freshers they are not able to grasp when they get the offer letter.
So I'll definitely keep this question. I'll try and respond to that for sure. But I would be more than happy to welcome anyone who's experienced, right? Even with 1 year experience, if you're handling, like we know a few people who are experienced. So I know Shaumi's experienced. I think Pradeep and sorry, I missed the other person's name. I can't see the chat right now. So we have experienced people, 20 plus,
Yeah,
12
and
plus.
Chandan Sharma has also mentioned that successful HRBP gives scope to all the stakeholders, local content, and local content supports the people from the locality in the chat box.
Correct. Right. Right, right. So I think, thanks for asking that, Satakshi. One of the things that I believe, right, in a job description and offer letter, so it's more the job description that they should understand, or each one of us should understand that, consciously, to know what's expected of each one of us. And how a job description's created. Typically, whatever the person is supposed to deliver, right? And again, I'm responding how a successful job description is created, right? It is facilitated in my thoughts, it has to be facilitated by three people. One is definitely the hiring manager or the business team. Then there is a recruiter who plays a key role. And then there is the HR business partner also, right? Because a particular role, when it comes up, what are the deliverables of the role? What are the skill sets that are in that role? To what proficiency level, individuals need to have those skill sets? To what extent do they need to be experienced in other things? So in a hiring, and I'm sure we have recruiters here, they will agree that there is a total work experience that is considered, and then there is a relevant work experience for that role that is considered for any of these scenarios. And what I have learned, throughout my career is it's not just about that role. There could be other things around work as such, about delivery, about client interactions, about the product service that they are into, which also helps in a better delivery of in terms of that role, or productivity element of that role. So what we essentially need to understand, Satakshi, is what are the skill sets being talked about in the job description, proficiency level, right? Do I have that much of relevant or total work experience? Many times we see people applying, assuming that, okay, I have about 5 years of experience. The JD is asking about 6 years of experience, 7 years of experience. I go ahead and apply. But these are additional things that start becoming a consideration when it goes to the recruitment teams or the recruiters or even the hiring manager, right? The offer letter as such is a much more it's a contractual document, right? So job description talks more about the role. Maybe some part of it is about the organization, the business unit for which the hiring is happening, and then skill set, proficiency, qualifications, certifications. These are all as part of the offer letter, right? These are all part of the job description. If you look at an offer letter, it's a contractual document, right? And that's where I think an HR person or a recruiter, even the HR business partner, right? It's more of a becomes an SME as far as the offer letter is concerned. If you ask me about the job description, it is more of the hiring manager, recruiter, and business HR business partner. Three key people involved in the job description. Coming to the offer letter, I think there are many of these things. One of these things is definitely, the contract element, that what's expected out of me in terms of delivering work, being associated with an organization. Uh, there are terms which are, let's say, confidentiality. There could be terms of, non-disclosure. There could be non-compete. A lot of these clauses, right? And at the end of the day, also the CTC. So your voice broke a little bit there, but I don't know if you wanted me to elaborate on the CTC or anything else in the offer letter. But this is my initial take, and I definitely welcome anyone from the audience to share anything that they want to share around your question.
Mr. Chandan has mentioned that JD includes OD conduct, and all other terms of engagement with the organization.
Correct.
Of conduct. And CTC as enclosure.
Sorry, I missed the last part.
CTC as enclosure.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, from a but because that point came up again and Chandan has mentioned, let me tell you, one of the very frequent questions that an HR business partner often gets in the first few months when a fresher joins, because your question was around fresher, right? Is my offer letter says something in terms of the CTC or the annual compensation, and my bank, I don't seem to have received that kind of amount in my bank. So understanding and decoding the CTC that organizations give in an offer letter is a HR task on its own. Uh, and there are many organizations that I work for, have worked for, or I'm working now, where we create at least about 50 questions just around the first month's pay, taxation, benefits, deductions, all of these. So believe me, that CTC, it may just look like a term and a very clear table which is there. When people start getting the money in the bank, they have a lot of questions around those.
Actually, I asked this question because when we were back in B school and when everybody used to get offer letters, the most um, term which used to confuse people the most was this table of that CTC, and you
Oh,
know what exactly they would be getting in their bank, like what you said, exactly the same thing. Thank you for letting us know.
yeah. Yeah. So I think we'll move on in the interest of time, and the slides that I put together, again, like I mentioned, was targeted for a lot of the freshers and early professionals who want to have an idea around HR business partnering, right? So again, I think this slide is quite self-explanatory. So we don't have to. We've discussed enough right now. If I look at the next slide also, I think I would rather go to this particular slide, right? Where I want to just talk about. So we've talked about the strategic alignment. We definitely want to talk about change management. In fact, if I'm not wrong, change management is one of the modules that we have in the overall session. Employee advocacy, I think, definitely is one of the key elements of the HR business partner. They are the ones who actually go and champion about employees to the management, because HR typically is considered as management, but at the same time, they also have to go and administer a lot of things which need not always be employee friendly, right? But they have a say in policies, processes, practices that happen in the organization. And obviously, these days, or it was always important, but now the importance of data-driven decision making, I think, is extremely important, right? So these are definitely things that HR business partners do on a day-to-day basis. Um, this is one of the slides that was there, but I wanted to start with the table, right? So the 80 terms that we saw were part of this slide, but I actually went ahead and pushed it up so that we start with that, and there's some thought that kicks in. Um, um, what is important for organizations to do, and when I really go ahead and talk to a lot of the early professionals and HR business partners, I think definitely understanding their business is very important. But many of the HR professionals, right, still do not know end to end what the organization does in terms of making a revenue, right? So the fourth question, the third and the fourth questions, right, are extremely important for us as HR business partners to understand that who is competition, right? If I have to think about few things that will happen, right, or that we can strategize in terms of, if we know this well, is where do we hire from? So for a recruiter and an HR business partner, right, knowing competition, knowing where the skill sets are available for our business directly impacts the people we hire, the people we are let going. So whoever's leaving may also go to our competitors. So if we know the competition, right, and we know what's the market like, then we are able to actually go back, do different things of employee engagement, a lot of things that can be done, right? So I know someone very close who's at a very senior HR business partner for a few businesses in a bank. It's one of the global banks, UK headquartered. So one of the things they realized, right, for their private banking business, and this was during COVID. They started during COVID. This particular initiative I'm talking about. So they have a private banking division, which typically is very high end clients. So the private bankers are very senior relationship managers. So typically a bank RM in a retail banking is called a private banker, right? In a private banking environment. So the organization was trying to retain these private bankers because they bring in loads of business from high net worth individuals. It could be individuals who are in customers or even enterprise customers. For them, they created a engagement program, the learning program, which is partnered with and these each of these people, they are itself in their maybe 20, 30 years plus in the industry. So they created a learning program which is in collaboration with INSEAD, which is in Singapore. The INSEAD, they have a they have a campus in France, if I'm not wrong. They have a tie-up with London Business School. They have a tie-up with MIT in US. And there are professionals coming in from each one of these institutes, right, to drive the engagement program. What was very interesting for me was one of the modules in that engagement program was movie stars, right, from Hollywood coming and taking a session on how to create impact for your target audience on screen. Now that's something that was I had never heard about it in till COVID hit, right? But many of you would have or about this platform called Masterclass. So Masterclass has varied professionals who come and teach their own areas. But I was very intrigued that banking, private banking, relationship managers or bankers are being taught by Hollywood movie stars how to create your impact on screen and continue to bring in business, right? Because during COVID, they were not meeting these people. So they were not really able to meet anyone face to face. So I think that was a strategic piece which this person had developed along with the business. But that's exactly what business partners need to do, and they retained almost 100% of their private bankers through these initiatives. And I know that they're continuing to do that even today. So coming back quickly, I think moving away, there are things that HR business partner today doesn't do. So I remember, if you look at this traditional HR, right? I remember HR business partners were taking business, exit interviews, even 10 years back. I know that's still happening in many organizations. But what's today changing in organizations is that the exit interviews are done by someone, right, who's more a shared services organization. But with the data, the HR business partners come across, certain action-oriented, insights, which they apply, right? Not to have, not to go to the stage of the exit interview. So they basically use the data from the exit interview, but have more meaningful retention discussions, or maybe influence the employee engagement initiatives to an extent where there are very, very contextualized, relevant employee engagement interventions, career pathing, compensation revisions, all of those, right, for relevant groups or target groups in the organization. So it's not just about doing the exit interview, it's about using the data from the exit interview and being able to meaningfully change things that make sense, right? Which would anyways not have the exit scenario at all, or at least reduce it to whatever extent. So that's something which is actually happening right today. So this is kind of, let's say, what we wanted to cover, at least to start off. But I'll take a pause and see if anyone has anything to share, comments, thoughts, questions, anything.
So, like you rightly said about the exit interviews. So, most of our HRBPs are not caring about this exit interviews because those employees have already exit the organization. So, but the key organization for retention strategic is to effectively utilizing those inputs. So, in our organization, we are using an external tool that it's an anonymous tool. It won't capture any employee's name, instead their inputs. So we are capturing their inputs, and we are trying to align with our business as well whenever where we can help our employees so that we can minimize the attrition as much as possible. So unless until it's related to compensation, because half of the inputs of the employees are related to compensation, and very few participants are not interested to share any inputs. Since they left the organization, our inputs are not going to help the business anyway. Is their mindset is what we believe. But even though if you are getting two or three inputs, it will be helping the business to know where we are lagging, where we can improve ourselves.
Thank you, sir. Here, Mr. Chandan Sharma has also mentioned that retention is the key strategy.
Sorry, I couldn't hear the.
He has mentioned that Mr. Chandan has mentioned that the retention is the key strategy.
Correct. Retention of the right people is definitely the key strategy, and I think what we also heard is that the inputs are, important. But I'll tell you the other thing that we've done recently, along with the HR business partnering team for two of our clients, and this I believe is happening in few organizations. So two things. So the one is definitely, when people have decided to leave, the retention discussions have happened, and the person is still moving on. There are, let's say, in some instances, things that could have been done differently, better when they were in the organization, and they could have been retained, right? So, in order to understand the actual reason, uh, there is a exit interview which is happening about. So a retention discussion happens just after they submit resignation on or express their intent to resign. Then there is a exit interview that happens, I think, either the last day or the last week of the notice period. And right now we are doing an assignment for few of our clients, two of them, like I mentioned, which is a exit survey after 100 days of them leaving. And I had first heard about this from Titan, which we all know is a Tata company, right? And I think it was just after, so it's almost 10, 12 years back is when I'm saying, right? So Titan had done this in one of the pioneering things that they did is to understand what happened, why the person left. The same question, same set of 5 questions they used to ask in a retention discussion, in an exit interview, um, just after the FNF was processed, which is 30 days, and after 100 days. And after 100 days, very interestingly, the narrative changed completely. Uh, in many of these, almost 60 to 70% of the scenarios. And I'm not sure if they do it even today. I'm sure these best practices are done by many organizations throughout. But at least that was picked up by a lot of people, right? This was part of some sharing that I was part of. I don't remember. So what we have realized now also is narratives do change after people have nothing left to get from that company, right? Which is typically all their dues, all the experience certificate, all of those, right? Narratives do change. The other thing is, I think, the mindset piece where people leaving feel that, what's the point in telling because nothing will change, I think is absolutely correct. But what we realized is, and this is, I'm talking about one of the organizations that I worked for, right? I can't name that. I can't tag the initiative to either, so I can't take the name as far as now. But in that organization, um, there was a there was a feedback from one of the senior people who had joined and someone else who had left, is that the joining process is well taken care, right? But the exit process is not. And obviously, this feedback came to the HR business partner given the seniority of the people. So we started giving something called, right, a boarding pass, which was the shared services head, brainchild, saying let's treat them well, because people who are coming and joining are becoming part of the family, so they are in the organization. But people who go out, who are leaving, continues to be our brand ambassadors, right? And once they leave, they go and create impressions outside. So I think a lot of organizations have started to think on these lines, but I think there's still a long way to go from an exit standpoint. But few mid-sized organizations that I work with right now, we've been able to convince them that we need to redo the entire exit process. So we're doing a process revamp for them with a very clear messaging to the employees who are leaving, that you go out and talk about the organization, whatever you feel is right, right? And in the process, create that employer brand. So we saw ESG, or employer branding, as some of the things that a CHRO or a business partner internally handles, and then when it goes out, it's the CHRO's responsibility to find people, right? But to attract the talent to the organization goes beyond the CHRO. It's actually the CXO, the entire CXO, including the CEO's pieces. How do I really also find the people, and where do I find the people, and why will they come and work for us? Right? That's definitely their employer branding part. So that's where I think I wanted to just add. So the other thing is, which is very important in today's piece, is what's happening in terms. So what is the base skill set, right? Which is very core, right? It need not always be functional, which means that I don't need to know a lot of HR to know this, right? So one of the things is, who are my stakeholders, right? In HR, for an HR business partner, believe me, it's everyone who's your stakeholder or who's our stakeholder. And relationship management and networking is one of the key things that HR business partner needs to drive on an everyday basis. The foundational element again, yeah. So I think what I'll go off to the next slide. And if anyone wants to share anything around this, right, saying any of the relationships and why stakeholders, why relationships matter, right? If anyone wants to share anything around what went right and what went wrong, uh, and we will keep the floor open for a few minutes. And while I do that, I think I'll move on to the next slide and keep that slide open, because I think these are things that really make a difference while those relationships are at play, right? Uh, okay, since no one is sharing, as in speaking and sharing, while some of you may be using the chat or thinking about it,
Yeah, someone
let
has,
me.
Mr. Chandan has mentioned in the chat box here right now that relationship with employees create the brand value of the company.
Absolutely. And that's reminding me as to why is it important for employees who are still in the organization. I think today organizations are doing stay interviews, believe me. While we are having so many layoffs, we have exit interview as one of the key areas that HR does, and we spoke about it. Organizations continue to do stay interviews to create that, to come up with or understand the differentiating factor as to why people are staying back, why a lot of people are leaving, right? And from there, they try to understand, okay, what's working in the organization and what are areas where things can be still improved. And the next slide also is again one of the things that that is very important. Obviously, I think this topic has been beaten to death, I think, from all sides, but continues to be extremely relevant and important, right? So we heard about, building the trust. So becoming a trusted partner, right, is something that is extremely important from become, for to become a big, or becoming the partner for the organization or the business unit that an HRBP is aligned with. Communication is important, but I think something else is also very important, right? Which is managing the expectations. And while we see here that the topic talks about the art of saying no, I think the very, very key piece to this entire, the intent of this message, if you see, is the last sentence that comes here saying experiences with difficult requests, right? And difficult conversations. Many HR professionals, including HR business partners, are not ready to have those difficult conversations. Where it could be about saying no, it could be about managing expectations. And obviously, there has to be a clear reason as to why the person is saying what he or she is saying. But I think something is very important is having the ability to manage through or maneuver through difficult conversations. So the managing expectations is, so this is also about influencing. It is also about negotiation skills, right, with the right intent. So I see the next slide talks about building alliances, trying to do something which works for everyone, and not necessarily it's a win-win. Most situations are not win-win. If someone wins something, someone has to lose, right? I mean, science says that in some format. But what actually works in that scenario for most of the audience is something which is important. So I think these are skills, right? Core skills, which may not be very, very HR. This is across professionals. But for HR people who wants to become a successful business partner, needs to have these skills essentially, right? Many of these skills actually are business skills, right? Negotiation, trying to convince someone is a very core skill for a salesperson. If we see, I've started building few sales communities, right, with two of my sales friends, and what we see is many of these skills. So what we saw in the last few slides, many of these skills are actually sales skills, right? So what I'm trying to say is core skills which cut across functional areas, domain areas are important, and for an HR business partner, extremely important, right? So that's what
Swami has also
this
mentioned,
module.
sorry to cut you, but Shawmi just mentioned that direct communication with stakeholders provides valuable insights into their perspectives and enables us to gather feedback to enhance our products and services. Companies that engage and before I put into that question, there's one question from my end also. Like since you're mentioning about the difficult conversations, if if a manager asks you to bend an HR policy, how would you professionally say no to them while offering alternatives and maintaining the relationship? Like how do you manage that?
Okay, so I didn't hear the Shomi's question fully. Your voice was not clear towards the end. So is there a question to Shomi's comments?
So basically, it's like, how do we say no while offering some alternative or maintaining the relationship when it's like a tough conversation to a manager, when the manager asks a person to bend an HR policy, how do we say no to that? And if we want to, if you're not able to do it, or it's somehow not fitting in, how do we politely or give alternatives or go around that situation?
I'll first tell a quick story, right? And this is, I want to definitely call out that this is that happened in, again, one of the organizations that I worked for. And something was not administered correctly, let's say a policy, right? And which negatively impacted an employee. And this employee had left the organization, and it was a financial impact, which means we said that, the employee is eligible for something, and then we went back and figured out that the HR policy doesn't actually say that, right? But the system which was configured, right, showed data from which the agent who was handling that request assumed, and that assumption was correct because data was showing up and the system was not set up the right way, right? So whatever went wrong, but the crux of the piece was something was negatively impacted, HR policy didn't allow it, and this person got negatively impacted, which means we said you're eligible for a particular amount, and finally at the time of disbursal we figured out that we cannot disburse because that's against the HR policy. um, this was not a statutory benefit, which means that organization was not mandatorily, it was not a mandate for the organization to honor that. So this individual writes back to the HR business partner, who was the HR business partner at the time when she or he was in the organization. And so HR business partner came back and said, okay, what happened? Let's understand. So we said, this is what happened. And I was part of the team which was supposed to process the benefit. Uh, so they said, sorry, there's something that has to happen, right? Which means we committed something to the employee. It was a wrong commitment, but the employee planned as part of our commitment. So what do we do? And that's where the term exceptions come in. Okay. And I'm sure HR professionals who are here on this call, in this session, would agree that exceptions are a big part of any HR organization, any organization for that matter. Now there are exception scenarios that we take from time to time based on what the situation is. uh, but the first thing that my supervisor and me discussed was that, okay, what do we do? So the point was, what should be done? So point I'm trying to make here is, first of all, let's understand the intent of that request that is coming from the manager. If the intent is personal, where few individuals are gaining, right, by deviating from an HR policy, obviously it's a no-brainer, right? We need to understand why they want to benefit that ways, right? And that should never happen. So what you see here, win-win, right? So typically we have to understand the intent of the policy, and we have to understand the intent of the request, which is deviating from the policy, and see if the larger population, tends to benefit from that deviation, then there's something wrong with the policy, right? Or at the same time, it could be a one-time request that is coming in. So understand that, take it to supervisors, take it to people who are decision makers in terms of the policy, right? And take their inputs. So every policy when we create in HR, policy and process, there is a provision that if anything beyond the particular policy needs to be done, it can go back to the people who reviewed the policy, who's typically the decision maker, who signed off on the policy. Some of the policies, right, sometimes, or many of the HR policies sometimes are backed by statutes, which ideally should not be deviated if it's negative. So let's say someone has to get, maternity benefits, right? If it's a women employee. And today, I think given the amount of diversity, inclusion, and, those pieces, we all talk about parental leaves, right? If someone has to get a parental leave, irrespective of the gender, that is backed by a statute. and that statute mandates the organization to do something, right? So it probably will become a non-compliance. Now, those things are non-negotiable, right? Largely. Uh, so there are many elements of these, but my boss had at that point in time, coming back to my example, said, okay, what should we do? And we both decided that we should do what is right. And finally, what happened is in that case, if anyone is wondering, uh, the the policy didn't allow, but the organization actually had committed, and at that point in time, the organization's branding was had to be honored. So we went ahead and consulted senior management, and there was a part of the benefit as a compensation which was offered to the employee. The employee graciously accepted that. While the full amount was not disbursed, given the policy didn't allow, a one-time exception was made when the organization said because the employee had planned and would get financially impacted if we didn't honor some part of the amount. And that amount had to be obviously signed off by senior people, and the employee also agreed to it. That's how that particular case was closed. So there are exceptions, there is an intent, but I think overall we should understand what is right for the organization and for the individuals who are party to that particular request.
Thank you. And I think Mr. Chandan has also mentioned that policy should be employee friendly without compromising the compliances.
No, I mean that's absolutely what should happen, right? And many organizations today and many statutes, I think, also today allow that, right? While they say, okay, let's say we take a leave policy, right? And if I'm assuming that all of us here are Indian nationals today, right, who are part of the session, uh, there are definitely policies that are backed by Factories Act or by Shops and Establishments Act. If I just take a leave policy, but also the policies and the statutes say that if the statutes typically say that if there is a better arrangement that the organization does, right, which may not actually align by every item, every element of the statute, right? But it overall works better for employees or individuals, from an organization policy standpoint, then that's fine, right? So non-compliance is something which definitely will start attracting penal clauses or whatever, right? And employees should never go through that. So we are almost 11:10, and I think the other piece that I wanted to browse through the quick slides is so this is something which is again becoming very important for HR business partners. In fact, for any HR professional, while we have a entire list of key metrics for every HR functional area, I think for business partners, they have to go through all of these, irrespective of what they are doing on a day-to-day basis, right? And I think what's very important is, and this is something that I want to introduce, this other term that we are hearing, and I think Satakshi, Gargi, some of you will know that there's this skill set that no one talks about, but it's called learnability. In the last 7 days, I've very closely tracked articles that talk about success, skills that give someone a career success. And about so I tracked about, I think, 19 or 20 articles, and these all go back to either something from Forbes, something by MIT, one of it in Harvard Business, a part of one of the Harvard Business Reviews, and all of them categorize communication, negotiation, relationship management as few top skills, and we saw those here. But one of the skills that I figured out after talking to about 246, to be precise, business managers back in 2021, 2022. At that point in time, we were creating talent development programs purely for HR professionals. And one of the things that came out very essentially, and whom these 246 people were not HR people, right? I think only about 20% of them were HR. The rest were business managers who work with freshers, who work with early professionals, and all of them told me things which culminated into a skill which we call learnability. And learnability typically means on the job learning. So for anyone who's a fresher or early professional, and for that matter, even experienced people, right? Today, I continue to learn from one situation, go and apply my learnings into another situation, which is similar, or where I can apply part of that learning, right? So we coined this term called learnability and said, okay, you have to go beyond your syllabus driven learning. You have to start picking up learning as you go along and continue to apply. So storytelling, right, if you see, is such a skill, right, which we all have, very, very core. Uh, we all have heard stories from our grandparents. We continue to hear about the importance of this. But putting all of these together, what's happening, what's important for the organization, why do we really see certain skills to some extent being highlighted in a lot of these? Storytelling becomes very important, right? And there's a slight catch I want to tell all of you. If you see this slide, the first three, right, which you see, Y data, key matrix, simple tools, right, are in the same font size. Anyone guess why the other two are in a different font size? And you see five, which is ethical handling, the biggest.
Since top three are very important.
Yeah, so definitely. So all are important. Top three are equally important. I'll just rephrase that. The top three are equally important. We use the tools, we use the key matrix, we use data. Storytelling is slightly smaller, saying we put all of this together and create stories, turn numbers into narratives. But five, which is ethical handling, is most important. That's why I wanted to create that slightly differentiator, saying whatever we do, I think there has to be an ethics behind all of this. And ethics go back to, personal values and organization culture as a combination, right? And we are hearing all about ethical use of AI. Courses are coming out saying, how do you ethically use AI, right? Quickly moving on, I think these are no-brainers. Yeah, so I think I'm. This is again the top four that came out when I did my search, right? And it's not just about how many people are leaving. I think for every HR business partner, it's important as to also why people are leaving. And I think we've talked about it earlier. Engagement score, I think, is very important. And what I consciously wanted to include was that happy. Many organizations today have started using happiness index. In fact, I don't remember the organization exactly, but they actually have a chief happiness officer. Um, and we know that I know personally that Bhutan as a country tracks happiness index for their people. So I know there's a article that comes out. I just remember about Bhutan because they top the list for many years. Uh, Time to hire, how
There
production is getting impacted. Go ahead.
Sorry, but when you show the slide on turnover rate, so can you tell us a bit about so what are the like the steps or the practical steps which we can take to gather some kind of raw data to understand what is the turnover rate in a specific department, being an HR professional. So because we see data, but then how do we understand what will be the turnover rate?
So obviously, when we go back and deep dive into Matrix, the HR analytics team in all organizations or the HRIS team in any organization, they're called different things, right? It could be reporting analytics, HRIS. So they publish monthly dashboards. So every organization has at least 10, 20 data points, and whatever we saw as key terminologies in the beginning, many of them actually have metrics. And that's the relationship between having the knowing those terms and then being able to track each one of those, right? So if you look at it, turnover rate typically would be in a month, how many people left. Obviously, for HR business partner, it means how many people are leaving for that business unit, how many people are leaving, who are leaving, right? So it's not just turnover rate as a matrix. It is also about who is leaving. Are my key talent leaving, right? Are my client facing folks leaving, right? And so those details are very important. The HRIS team typically reports some broad metrics, and then for HR business partner, they deep dive and understand who are leaving, what's the business impact. Can we ask them to, serve the full notice period? When will they leave? How do we really get the backup? Do we really need to fulfill this position back, or we don't need to fill this? Either this gets uh, you know captured somewhere else or addressed somewhere else, or we go ahead and ensure that we get the right people in the right time to come on board. So that's why if you see time to hire is a HRBP matrix, which many of the HRBPs track these days. It's not just the HR recruiter who does that. For the HR business partner, it's important that from the day that position becomes open, how fast can I get my business to get the people and come on board? And like I mentioned, why are people leaving in each of these categories? I think is also important. There are other additional metrics that can come in right along with this, but that's an immediate response to what you said.
Thank you.
Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Thank you. So that it gives us more insight over this turnover rate and, you know, data and how it is used.
Right, right. And I think the other thing that was interesting to me is if you see the diversity ratio, uh, today diversity, the DEIB, while gender continues to be one of the most prominent diversity elements that's discussed. But I was happy to see that PWD, which is people with disability, minorities, these are coming in, right, as a generic inclusion of, in topic included under diversity. Because many conversations on diversity, while I honor and respect the conversations around gender diversity, should not be limited only to gender. Obviously, today gender is no more, binary. It definitely goes beyond that entire, the LGBTQ and wherever, right? All the communities under gender diversity. But I was part of a few of the PWD, or as we call, differently abled people hiring initiatives, where HR business partners played a very, very critical and sensitive role. In fact, there were few of the instances in my knowledge, I cannot name those organizations, where even it's not just about LGBTQ, but it's about how each one of these small groups, right, are respectful towards each other, how the organization is respectful towards all of them. There was an instance of a gender change where I just my respect for the HR business partner as a function grew multifold. When we were part of that particular journey, where skillfully the HR business partner maneuvered conversations from starting from the CXOs to the business unit heads to the team leads and the team, right? How they should manage that particular situation. It was just about one employee who was going through a gender change. And these were across functions, right? Because admin comes in and says, infrastructure wise, how does the person start using certain facilities in the facility, right? The teams had to align with it. So there were some of these very sensitive pieces which I was part of, and I these days when I search, earlier, at least a year back, also a couple of years back, also it used to be limited to gender diversity. Today we see a lot of these things coming in, right? So that's very important. How a HR business partner plays a very sensitive and critical role, maneuvering through what's happening, what can happen from an organization standpoint. I think I have a few more slides. Okay, these are primarily tools. I think every organization has their own set of tools. Yeah. So here is something that I wanted to again set the context and then keep the next slide open. If anyone wants to share anything around turning numbers into stories, so this is, using some of the numbers, how to really make sense of matrix, but at the end of the day, create really meaningful, actionable, action items for business, for the other HR teams that are supporting that business, right? And many times the HR business partner is maneuvering or facilitating these conversations. So you see this example which says turnover 18% in Q2, highest in sales, suggest interviews plus manager training, right? This is something that comes out, let's say, but then there are a lot of things that actually goes behind this one statement. So if anyone wants to share anything, because this is again a very, very critical skill set that HR business partners need to have, and they are for freshers, I think extremely important, because that's where they will stand apart from the crowd and say, okay, I should be hired over someone else, right? But I'll keep this particular slide on, welcoming, audience to share. Uh,
So I'd like to share something on time to hire. So actually,
yes, please.
in our business, right, so whenever there is any competitors hiring is going on aggressively, they are even ready to hire 80 to 90 percentage hike from their salary. So most of our tenured leaders will obviously end of the day, they will be looking for compensation, they will be moving on. And the recruitment team is struggling to look out for the right hire because of the notice period for leadership hiring will be 90 days. So in that, we are encouraged to do internal job posting. So whenever we identify a right potential inside of organization, rather than going outside and giving
Right.
an opportunity to our employees, we will be rolling out a different kind of internal job posting through our channels, and we will be encouraging them to apply whenever there is open forums, as well as informing them to apply the same, and reducing the hiring time as well. So this will align with the business, and will ensure that everything is goes on smooth, rather than providing opportunity to external hiring that will obviously create a salary issue among the internal employees.
No, I think very, very, very nice point, because organizations many times don't realize the impact of internal job postings, right? While they do it, I'm sure many organizations I've seen also, I keep hearing that they do IJPs, but they do IJPs just for the sake of doing it, right? Wherever it's a competitive process and IJP is really valued, right? Definitely includes, so because IJP is not just about hiring, right? It's about a career framework also. So I think the impact is much, much broader if we are able to fulfill some of these positions internally. And I don't remember the sector, but for one of the clients we were working, right? It was not the recruitment team only who came and battled for IJPs. The business partner said, "Hey, this really makes a lot of sense because then I have a career pathing also that is possible, right? For all the roles that we hire externally, we'll open it and we'll actually ask everyone to go through the competitive process along with external candidates." And many times, I think you talked about the time, the 90 days time and all. I think many times organizations take a decision that we'll first open it up to internal people and then externally. But I think few of them have started saying, okay, let's keep it open for 15 days, which is a shorter period, but then we'll open it up externally and find out, and start evaluating people across. But I think I completely agree that IGP is a great tool or a strategy for fulfilling positions internally. What we can look at is, okay, where external talent needs to come in unless the skill sets are available internally. I think that's the sensitive bit today. Many organizations, we realize, they don't have a skill repository of their internal talent. That becomes slightly difficult when the IGPs or some of these initiatives are taken, and they take a decision. Okay, we don't have people inside, right, and open it up for external. So I think there's quite a bit of groundwork that's also required to make the IGP or some of these things much more effective. But I think I agree completely that I see this trend in many organizations now that they're seriously considering IGP, not just for the sake of doing it. Thanks for sharing that. So I think just a couple of more slides. Okay, I think, yeah. So as an HR business partner, extremely important that we not just handle sensitive data, but and what we have started doing is many of the so no organization will actually start sharing HR data, right? Anonymization is very important. I think we heard also about anonymity in one of the sharings. It's also to understand that, what's the compliance around. It's not just respecting, it's also about understanding the compliance. It's understanding what's the regulation around data sensitivity, data protection, some of these. And at the same time, I think what I've seen is HR business partners also have to respect conversations that happen between a manager and between a team member, right? One of the instances in the exit interview, the employee, and I go back to my experience of that exit interview after 100 days. None of the exit interviews, retention discussions that happened with this particular employee brought up anything, right? Nothing was shared by the employee. Now, the after 100 days exit survey was done by a complete different team, right? Not by the HR business partner. So in that particular interview or the feedback, we received the candid feedback that the employee actually had the problem with the HR business partner. An HR business partner was sitting and doing all of these interviews for his or her own business unit, right? So that gave us a little bit of insight saying, okay, what if the issue is with the HR business partner, right? And that was a very simple incident that had occurred where the HR business partner, the person in question, right, about whom we got the feedback, had just talked about the conversation the employee had with this HR business partner about the manager. Obviously, the manager had to be given feedback, but maybe keeping some anonymity or identifying the team member. So some of that respect and the trust was not maintained when the HRBP shared the feedback with the manager and the team leadership. And this employee finally left for some other reason. But due to that, this person did not want to even share anything, any feedback with the HRBP. There was a different, action taken in terms of the exit interview structure. So organization decided that, okay, from now on, the exit interview for for one business unit would be done by a different business partner, right? A business partner from a different business unit, someone who's not on a day-to-day, working mode. But that was a short kind of a tactical move. But overall, I think what I'm trying to say is sensitivity, because the entire HR business partner has access to everything, right? And they definitely need to treat people with respect and sensitive, situations. One organization, on a closing note, I want to give, share this experience that for one of them, we created this employee communication tool, and candid feedback started coming in when people realized that they're not talking to the HRBP anymore. They're not giving feedback to the HR business partner on a day-to-day basis. The spot survey, on a daily survey, they were talking to a bot. It'll be a chat bot which will open up and how are you feeling today? Or there were different questions. And Amazon does this very effectively. And that used to go back to a algorithm, right? And no human was sitting on the other side listening or looking at every response which is identifiable. And more feedback started coming in. And then many of these things are being done in many organizations. But yeah, finally, I think on a closing note, I'll keep the floor open for any questions, feedback, thoughts, comments. The intent is to, create the foundational elements that HR business partners should know or should be doing. What are expectations and key messages that we need to set up? The next version of this session will actually have few HR business partners coming and a facilitated session on what do they think their sharings on screen on each of these areas and anything that they want to share beyond this these points, which are practically very useful, from which we create these knowledge nuggets for early professionals and freshers. So that's on a closing note. But yeah, anything that anyone wants to share, I'll stop the screen share and we can keep the floor open before we decide to end the session.
All participants, you're free to unmute yourself or put your question in the text box. Any of your opinions or anything that you want to talk about regarding the session?
Actually, I like to first thank Gargi as well as Abhinandan for this beautiful sessions or how effective business partner role is. So, sir, just wanted to check one thing. As an HRBP,
Yeah.
is it mandatory to learn about AI and how effectively to align with our business when come to our role?
So when you say AI, you mean artificial intelligence and the impact of those, or
How we can align with our business, how effectively we can use in our careers to improve our goals as well as employee engagement, or analyzing related to companies attrition as well as retention aspects on that part, sir.
So I think a lot of the things for an HR business partner, and I can definitely circle back with actual responses from HR business partners, which we have collected, offline. If you share your credentials with Gargi, just your email or something, or to everyone we can include. But I think what's important for an HR business partner is understanding the business. Right. I'll give you the example of, so we covered that in a few of the slides, right? So one is how does my organization make money? How does my business unit make money? Second is what's the market, right? What are the markets we are in? It could be a geography standpoint, it could be a segment standpoint. Who are our competitors, right? And how do I really have a conversation with a client? Because many of the HR business partners where I've spoken interventions or some of these, we've realized the HR business partner, first of all, does not have clear or clarity, right, or in-depth knowledge about the business as such. And believe me, a lot of HR heads don't have it in mid-size or small-size organizations. They become very, very transactional oriented, right? If an offer letter is not going out, they're worried only about the offer letter, right? Now, there are mechanisms today to create a small team, which need not be HR teams, right? So, what's the shared services? My experience in the last 20 years about shared services is we need only 30% HR professionals in a shared services organization, but we need 100% people who are HR qualified for an HR business partner role. But um, I'm just forgetting that organization right now. I think the CHRO was a new CHRO. She went out for sales calls with the sales guys, the CHRO, not just the HRBP. So the point I'm trying to make is increasingly we are hearing from HR leaders across the organization that understand your business. If I understand who are my competitors and where I will tentatively lose my talent, then I can create a better retention strategy for my people, for that business unit. And it'll differ from business unit to business unit. I've been part of the ITES organization for 9.5 years of my career. What worked for the healthcare business unit, what worked for a life science business unit, doesn't work from a banking and financial services standpoint, right? So every business unit has its own nuances. While overall HR business partner is still doing retention, still doing exit interviews or all of these. Employee engagement is much broader, right? Many HR business partners also mistake HR retention, employee engagement as employee entertainment. They still feel they're doing Monday morning mantras and Friday on the floor quiz and all of that will retain people. People have gone beyond all of these. That's my short response. But if you want anything specific, I'm more than happy to connect with you, and even let's connect with few other HR business partners who can give you more information. While I'll try to gather all of these and create some value add to your question.
Thanks for the input, sir. So, final information. Just wanted to check your views. Actually, there was a one news getting circulated. I'm not sure how authentic it. IBM has removed nearly 200 HR professionals due to AI. They are introducing AI to their business. Will it be the impact for HRBP in future, sir? Like organization bringing back AI will impact HRBP roles.
So I read that article, and I actually wrote an article on that also and shared it. So we have a AI community. I drive my business partner and me. We together have a HR, AI and HR transformation community, which has almost 1,650 professionals as of now. We are increasing the count, and I wrote an article on this. What I remember, and I again, I think I can go back and recheck that, is none of those 200 were actually let go, or very few of the 200 were actually let go. The roles were completely redefined. So typically, what's happening is, to give a straight answer, I think the traditional roles or the roles that we saw till even yesterday, right? Today we are having conversations. Believe me, some roles that were there yesterday, or some things, that a HR business partner was doing yesterday, has now got automated by the time we started the session and we are ending the session. So if HR business partners in organizations think that they will continue to have a transactional mindset and be relevant, I think they're very wrong in that mindset as of now. Believe me, I am building a agentic AI framework. The team here is part of that. We have students, freshers whom we involve in some of those smaller projects. But the clear intent is, I will go to a small organization that cannot afford, let's say, many recruiters, they cannot afford a full-fledged senior HR person, and create 10 agents, AI agents, who will take care of everything end to end. But there'll be transactional agents, right? They will be able to probably go into mailboxes if the organization is receiving, let's say, resumes in a mailbox, there's an agent which goes into mailbox, opens the resume, parses the resume, puts it in a Excel file. That is something what was being done by, let's say, a very junior recruiter in the organization, right? Now, after I've done it, there can be 1 million resumes. It will take 5 hours for us to mine that database, create a Excel file out of that. The next agent, I will identify the skill requirements for 20 roles and see how many people in that 1 million Excel database has any of those 20 roles and to what extent. Now, after this happens, someone talking to the candidates, there's also a tool that has come up, an AI-based tool which can reach out to 10,000 candidates at the same time. If I just put all of these together, then what's becoming very important for the HR business partner or the recruiter or any of those people is the transactional jobs are going off. So I need to have those skill sets of having good conversation to learn on the job. Those skill sets, right, are becoming very important. So yes, there will be redefinition of the roles. Many of the junior level jobs will become more value adding, where the expectation of the skill sets and the proficiency levels will be much higher than what it is today. And I think what we should also understand is how will some of these AI tools enable us to do our job better. I think what I read, and I can, like I said, I can go back to that IBM article and come back. But I think they have redefined all of those 200 people's job roles. Very few of them were actually let go, if I remember correctly.
Thank you, sir. There's one other question which has come up from Shomi. How do you deal with high performing but toxic employees in organizations? They may be giving good impact in business and generating revenue, but also impacting the workplace negatively for other colleagues. Thank you, Pradeep. Sir.
Yeah. So, Somi, this is again a very, very, I think, on a every day HR business partners go through this. Believe me. Um, every organization has their own way of dealing with this. But I think something that I have gathered in the last 2 decades of my experience and what I've seen, I've handled this situation myself. Very upfront, I would want to share that this toxicity should be a non-negotiable situation for in a team, right? Because there's a much bigger impact that creates, much deeper impact it creates in the people who are on the receiving end. So I've seen organizations who are very straightforward, saying performance is extremely important. You may be in a client-facing role, but if you do some of these things, right? Let's say talk badly, behave, in a wrong way, be disrespectful, right? There are stages of how that is dealt with. Obviously, starts with a warning, starts with the manager talking to them, starts with skip level manager explaining, giving a warning, giving a disciplinary action, but they still retained. And at the end of the day, they are let go. There is a very recent example. We placed someone, very high performer. We placed this person there was a new hire, right? Experienced professional. We place them in a client situation. This person goes and goofs up, right? And this definitely was creating a branding impact from an organization standpoint. This was no more impacting just the team. It was also impacting a client. And finally, the person was let go in about I think in about within 90 days. They said, sorry, high performance is absolutely essential, but toxicity, we don't deal with toxicity, weekly. So the person was asked to leave. So organizations who do not do it do not set the right example for people who are staying back. And you will actually find a lot of other people will start leaving, right? Because you're not dealing with the actual problem. And there are various situations that happen. We can take, any specific situation that you are talking of offline. But I think this is how what I've gathered over the last 2 decades as to what an organization approach should be.
Adding to that, I feel Ravi, there was this post which we saw on LinkedIn where it stated that people do not leave like their jobs, they leave toxic workplaces. And it becomes pretty viral.
Yeah, and there are enough of these exit surveys, the 100-day survey that I'm talking of, right? I can quote people, right, saying, I will come back to the organization the day that manager resigns, right? Or you give me a different role, different organization, different business unit, I'll come back, tomorrow. So that talks about how people get very aligned with organization, but still they leave because of toxicity. Yep. Yeah. So I think we are almost
Is
on
there anyone
time.
else, yeah, who wants to ask some other questions? Please go ahead, Priti. So I think
Yeah, I think we'll give it a few more seconds. I think Shomi is trying typing something.
yes,
But otherwise, I think thanks everyone for
yeah,
joining. Thanks Gargi, Satakshi, and Prarthana for facilitating and for the entire session. Thank you very much. I think we'll stay connected for the future sessions as well. Right. Looking forward to have
yes.
other subject matter experts also in these sessions. So thanks everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank
So
you,
on
sir.
behalf of our entire team and all our attendees, I want to extend this heartfelt thank you, sir, for giving such beautiful examples and such an insightful and engaging session on HR business partnering. Of course, all your expertise in the 20 plus years of expertise and your real world examples, the thoughtful perspectives, they have truly enriched this webinar and sparked some really meaningful conversations. The way you've broken down the complex concepts and shared your practical strategies, we value those. Obviously, our audience has gained so much from attending this session. We've received wonderful feedback, and everybody was very engaging during the session. So we are grateful for the time and effort you've given to making this event successful. And like we said, we will continue hosting such sessions, and hopefully next time we'll have other speakers as well. So thank you so much, Abhinandan sir. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Sir has mentioned looking forward to the future sessions. So I think with that, we come to an end of this webinar. Once again, thank you to all the attendees, and thank you, Abhinandan sir, and we can close this session.
Thank you, Abhinandan sir. Thank you, Gargi. Thank you, Pratna.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
It was a nice interaction, huh? Lots of learning.